tomorrow. Wake up, my people, and open every door. Wake up, it's time now, love my people evermore. All across the nation, people are waiting. Hungry people starving, waiting hopefully. Wake up to my people, share your table with them. As often as you do these things, you do the same for me. Wake up, my people, wake up, give a shout. Wake up, people, know what life's about, and wake up to the needs of all the ones who suffer sorrow. Wake up, promise now to do your best to change tomorrow. Wake up, my people, and open every door. Wake up, it's time now, love my people evermore. Living in our cities, people are waiting. People are lonely, waiting hopefully. Wake up to my people, listen to their story. As often as you do these things, you do the same for me. Wake up, my people, wake up, give a shout. Wake up, my people, know what life's about, and wake up to the needs of all the ones who suffer sorrow. Wake up, promise now to do your best to change tomorrow. Wake up, my people, and open every door. Wake up, it's time now, love my people evermore. Even in our families, people are waiting. Someone might be crying, waiting hopefully. Wake up to my people, dry their tears of sorrow. As often as you do these things, you do the same for me. Wake up, my people, wake up, give a shout. Wake up, my people, know what life's about, and wake up to the needs of all the ones who suffer sorrow. Wake up, promise now to do your best to change tomorrow. Wake up, my people, and open every door. Wake up, it's time now, love my people evermore. All across the nation, people are waiting. Hungry people starving, waiting hopefully. Wake up to my people, share your table with them. As often as you do these things, you do the same for me. Wake up, my people, wake up, give a shout. Wake up, my people, know what life's about, and wake up to the needs of all the ones who suffer sorrow. Wake up, promise God to do your best to change tomorrow. Wake up, my people, and open every door. Wake up, it's time now, love my people evermore.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen. Peace be with you.
And with your spirit.
Good morning, my dear sisters and brothers.
Good morning, Your Grace.
And for all those of you who are following with us, participating in the Mass on television and through live streaming, we welcome you. We welcome you as part of our community of faith gathered for celebrating the Eucharist here this Sunday morning. We are in the Church of the Good Shepherd in Babonneau. And today you're going to meet the Babonnites. And they are a wonderful people. And we are going to have a wonderful celebration because we are going to celebrate today the launching of the song for our assembly, which comes off in November this year. And we also have a jingle. So, you have to go with us and stay with us and celebrate with us because we are a people of celebration, a people of joy, a people of faith. And we thank God. We thank God for you, and we thank God for each other here today. God is good.
All the time.
All the time.
God is good.
Praise the Lord. So we prepare ourselves to celebrate these sacred mysteries by recognizing that we are sinners, but God is merciful, and we ask God for mercy and forgiveness. I confess to Almighty God and to you, my brothers and sisters, that I have greatly sinned in my thoughts, and in my words, in what I have done and in what I have failed to do, through my fault, through my most grievous fault. Therefore I ask Blessed Mary, ever Virgin, all the angels and saints, you, my brothers and sisters, to pray for me to the Lord our God. May Almighty God have mercy on us, forgive us our sins, and bring us to life everlasting.
Amen. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison. Christ eleison, Christ eleison, Christ eleison, Christ eleison. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
And let us all now give glory to God as we sing the Gloria.
Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to people of good will. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to people of good will. We praise you, we bless you, we adore you, we glorify you, we give you for your great glory. Lord God, heavenly King, O God, Almighty Father, glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to people of good will. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to people of good will. Lord Jesus Christ, only begotten Son, Lord, away the sins of the world. Receive our prayer. You are seated at the right hand of the Father. Have mercy on us. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to people of good will. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to people of goodwill. For you alone are the Holy One. You alone are the Lord. You alone are the Most High. Jesus Christ with the Holy Spirit, in the glory of God the Father. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Let us pray. O God, who have prepared for those who love you good things which no eye can see, fill our hearts, we pray, with the warmth of your love, so that loving you in all things and above all things, we may attain your promises, which surpass every human desire. Through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God forever and ever.
The first reading is taken from the prophet Isaiah, chapter 56, verse 1, chapter 6 to 7. I will bring foreigners to my holy mountain.
Faut excellent parole ça la hodia qui sorti Isaiah chapitre 56 verset 1 et verset 6. Nous qu'attend manière yo kay porter tout le monde qui est étranger, tout le monde qui pas sorti pays ça là, et yo kay mette ya sous montagne bon Dieu qui bien béni. À nous écouter parole ça la hodia.
Thus says the Lord, have a care for justice, act with integrity, for soon my salvation will come and my integrity be manifest. Foreigners who have attached themselves to the Lord to serve him and to love his name and be his servants. All who observe the Sabbath, not profaning it, and cling to my covenant. These I would bring to the my holy mountain. I would make them joyful in the house of prayer. Their holocaust and their sacrifices would be accepted on my altar. For my house would be called a house of prayer for all the peoples. The word of the Lord.
Shed its light upon us, so will your ways be known upon earth, and all nations learn your saving help. Let the peoples praise you, O Lord. Let all the peoples praise you. As you rule the peoples, you guide the nations on earth. Let the peoples praise you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you. Let the peoples
let all the peoples praise you. May God still give us his blessing till the ends on the earth revere him.
Let the peoples praise you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you.
The second reading is taken from Romans chapter 11, verse 13 to 15, and chapter 29 to 32. With Israel, God never takes back his gifts or revokes his choice.
La deuxième parole, ça l'a redit à fort excès. Nous sommes avec Israël. Bon Dieu, il ne peut pas jamais reprendre tout cadeau. Il ne peut pas prendre et qui ne peut pas mettre choix il a là, il ne peut pas tourner dos à ce choix ça là. Nous allons écouter parole ça là, jeune petit maman là qui dit nous.
Let me tell you pagans this. I have been sent to the pagans as their apostle, and I am very proud of being sent. But the purpose of it is to make my own people envious of me, and in this way save some of them, since their rejection meant the reconciliation of the world. Do you know what that mission will mean? Nothing less than a resurrection from the dead. God never takes back his gifts or revokes his choice. Just as you changed from being disobedient to God and now enjoy mercy because of their disobedience, so those who are disobedient now and only because of the mercy shown to you will also enjoy mercy eventually. God has imprisoned all men in their own disobedience only to show mercy to all mankind. The word of the Lord.
Please stand.
Answered her not a word. And his disciples went and pleaded with him. Give her what she wants, they said, because she is shouting after us. He said in reply, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But the woman had come up and was kneeling at his feet. Lord, she said, help me. He replied, it is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the house dogs. She retorted, yes, sir. But even house dogs can eat the scraps that fall from their master's table. Then Jesus answered her, woman, you have great faith. Let your wish be granted. And from that moment, her daughter was well again. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Please stand.
over 325 cases in Trinidad and Tobago, a small country. My sisters and brothers, you see this wave, these spikes that we are seeing in various parts of the world, where in Ireland, in England, in the United States, in Peru and all these places, there's a bishop in Peru who has been affected by the virus as well. And he's a bishop who comes here to visit the monastery, and he's very sick with the virus. We can't play with this thing. And you see what's happening in Trinidad is like a next door neighbor. It's not far away. We have to be careful and don't start giving caution to the wind. We have to do what we are told to do, follow the protocols. And don't mess with this COVID-19 virus at all. You see, in Trinidad for the next 28 days from Monday, tomorrow, there'll be no more church, no more gatherings. Churches closed down again. Restaurants, bars, everything closed down. Schools closed down until they don't know when. Let us be mature and let us be careful and safe. And don't think of yourself only. Please think of your brothers and sisters. Woman, you have great faith. Let your wish be granted. If a woman, like a Canaanite woman, were to come to church today, us all looking around. Why? Because she would be making noise.
So, Son of David, take pity on me. My daughter is tormented by a devil. Lord, help me. Help me.
Is that all the noise you could make?
So, take pity on me. My daughter is tormented by a devil. Help me, Lord, help me.
She would be shaking us up, shaking up the place, and causing a consternation, even a nuisance. And we wouldn't like it. We would consider her behavior interference. She would be desperate, and she would know what we have as church, the power of the Eucharist, and she would be pleading with us to share that powerful meal with her, and we would be cold. We would be more concerned about her shouting at us like the disciples of Jesus were. Her telling us she knows what we have, and all she wants is a little tiny piece, so that her daughter could be fed with healing food and be made healthy and saved. She would be willing to accept the crumbs from our table, but we would miss the opportunity if we aren't listening with the ears of Jesus. She would be considered an intrusion, upsetting the way things are. She would shout Louder.
So, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter, she is tormented by the devil. Lord, help me. Help me.
This was a moment of change, you know. Jesus was in Gentile territory. And there was this woman coming up to him and calling him Lord and asking him to heal her daughter. This was a breakthrough. And this is a moment of evangelization. And evangelization is breaking new ground, thinking in new ways, sharing the gifts that we have with others, not keeping the faith to ourselves, not keeping Jesus for me, but making sure that Jesus is for others too. That woman opened up a new era of evangelization for the church. She is a challenge to our faith. She will see the power in the crumb, the healing power of the Eucharist, and we will take it. If that Canaanite woman were to come to Babonneau, to church this Sunday morning, she would make us blush. She would expose all the divisions in your community. And you know what, Babonnaites? I don't think you would like it, because I'm putting myself with you. We would think she is an outsider, because that's what she was as a Gentile. She was an outsider to the Jewish people. And we would think that she has no place sticking her nose in our business. But she would wake us up from our slumber. Babonnaites, are you awake? Let me hear amen. 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 We are all suffering from COVID-19 paralysis. And we need the voice of the Canaanite woman to wake us up, to tell us to pick up our mats and to walk, to come out of our new comfort zones, step out in faith. And you know what? Comfortable, nice, soft chair you can sit in at home and make that your place of church. For those of you who of necessity have to make it that way, that's fine. But for those of you who are strong enough and can make it back to church, as long as church is opened again, then, you know, it's time to get up and to make your move. It's time to value our church, to value our faith, to partake of the Eucharist as our source of life, food for the soul, and healing of divisions. I am better than them. We are better than them. We are better off than them. You know, the way we keep making comparisons and judgments in our communities, even in our small communities. We have to watch it. If we are brothers and sisters, then we have to treat each other as brothers and sisters. And if we are church, we have to live as church in communion with one another. And where we see want, we help. And where we see blessings, we give thanks and praise, and we are filled with gratitude. But we don't become the judge of others and make others feel small or belittle them. Community, especially out his name for all to hear, to make evangelization part of our community, a real part of our community, the spreading of the faith, welcoming others to share in our faith with us. What do you have in your community? Others to share your faith. We have the RCIA, the right to Christian initiation for adults. What do you have in place? And what are you doing to invite others to come and share your faith with you? We are losing many of our brothers and sisters. And part of it is that we are not caring enough for them. We are not available when they are crying, when they are shouting, when they take a night over among us. We don't have any time for them. And by the time we realize it, sometimes we don't even realize that they are gone, and it makes no difference. But that's not the right way. If we make evangelization an important part of our community, then we will be more alert and critical for one another. And we really want to bring Jesus to others and to bring others to Jesus. And in our own community, we have to happen. Please, my Babonneau brothers and sisters, please take it to heart today. Let this woman in the gospel today be a challenge to you in the way you are living your faith. This Canaanite woman is also a challenge to help us hear the call to unity. For united we stand, and divided we fall. She will teach us the power of the crown, to appreciate what we have. Appreciate the Eucharist. Trinidad is back. We'll be back on 28 days of lockdown. No more church. You know what that means to a lot of Catholics? Especially those who were now going back to church after the long lockdown we had. Suddenly to find themselves back again in lockdown. And we can just find ourselves taking things for granted. Don't take your church for granted. Don't take your faith for granted. Don't take the Eucharist for granted. She will teach us the power of the crumb. New ways to be church. But we can't shut her up because she is different. We have to listen to her. Her great faith and vitality. And notice the new life she brings to the church. The Canaanite woman is a woman of vision, a symbol of women of vision in the church and our Caribbean women. And our Caribbean women, you need to be a greater force in society and in the church. We need more women who are passionate for the kingdom and passionate with the gospel and the word of God. Women who keep the church afloat with their commitment and zeal. Women whose prayers are answered because of their great faith. God is good.
All the time.
All the time. We need more women like the Canaanite woman who bring a new richness to the church. She is not concerned about herself. She is concerned about her daughter. And this is unselfish love. Our Caribbean women have to keep shouting and never give up. In the church in St. Lucia today, what cry are we hearing? What cry are we hearing in the church in St. Lucia today? You know, it's easier to hear the cry from Brazil or India or Africa and other faraway places, while our ears remain closed to the cry around us, the cry of the unemployed, those strangled by death, those unable to make ends meet. These are genuine cries all around us in our own land. The woman's daughter was tormented by a devil, so she cried for help. What are the demonic forces that torment people and societies today? Lust for power, ruthless ambition, elitism in its different forms, materialism, lust for riches at any cost, and to be in charge and control. As a church, are we aware of the people who are shouting, crying, pleading, hurting, and humbling themselves to be heard?
Save us, help us, empower us, respect us.
Are we listening? Are we a listening church? How do we welcome, listen, and accept outsiders? Why does lay leadership become so controlling and clericalized in the church? How can we build more hospitable, welcoming, loving, and trusting church communities? How could we end division and possessiveness within our church communities? And you know, over and over again, as I go to different parishes, people tell me this. That some of our brothers and sisters, when they take on leadership in our church communities, they take possession. And it is very hard for others to come in, to get in, to be part of ministry or particular ministries. It's so controlled and protected. That's not healthy for ministry. Ministry must be open to anyone who wants to serve, who has the gift and the charism for that particular ministry. And good leadership facilitates the gifts in the community. It doesn't stifle initiative or gifts. How could we end division and possessiveness in our church communities? And now I have two questions for you. As we prepare for Assembly 2020, we have to reflect on the scriptures we are doing today and to see what comes out of the gospel that can help us in our way forward. And from the story today, I have two questions I want to ask you. One, how could we foster communion among us as Catholic Christians in St. Lucia? How could we foster greater communion among us as Catholic Christians in St. Lucia? And the second question, how could we build greater harmony and unity at every level of church life as we seek to move forward as church? Unity is the vision for our assembly. we are called to unity. And this is my conclusion. Let us join Jesus in celebrating the great faith of this wonderful woman in the gospel today, as she challenges the false values of our culture and shows us the way to a new evangelization which comes through union, unity, communion, togetherness, fellowship, great faith, and living the gospel with joy. She can be a model for our Archdiocesan Assembly and gathering of church in November this year. We are called to be a church united. We are called. Yes, we are called. We are called. We are called. Yes, we are called. We are called. Let the choir sing with me. Give me a note there, C. And start it. We Yes, we are called. Yes, we are called. Amen. Amen. We are called. Let's stand and profess our faith.
I believe in one God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, of all things visible and invisible. I believe in one Lord Jesus Christ, the only begotten Son of God, born of the Father before all ages, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten not made, consubstantial with the Father. Through him all things were made. For us men and for our salvation, he came down from heaven, and by the Holy Spirit was incarnate of the Virgin Mary, and became man. For our sake he was crucified under Pontius Pilate. He suffered death and was buried, and rose again on the third day, in accordance with the Scriptures. He ascended into heaven and is seated at the right hand of the Father. He will come again in glory to judge the living and the dead, and his kingdom will have no end. I believe in the Holy Spirit, the Lord, the giver of life, who proceeds from the Father and the Son, who with the Father and the Son is adored and glorified, who has spoken through the prophets. I believe in one holy, Catholic, and Apostolic Church. I confess one baptism for the forgiveness of sins, and I look forward to the resurrection of the dead
and the life of the world to come. Amen. With open hearts and listening ears, we lift up our prayers to God our Father and we ask for mercy. We ask for good listening in the church, and we also ask for good leadership at all levels of ministries in our Archdiocese as we move towards Assembly 2020, that we will be a church united and brothers and sisters working and living together in harmony with each other. And so we pray.
Our response: Speak, Lord, I'm listening. Please show me the way.
Speak, Lord, I'm listening. Please show me the way.
For our Holy Father, our bishop, priests, deacons, religious and catechists, that their only preoccupation in life may be the salvation of the people entrusted to their care, we pray to the Lord.
Speak, Lord, I'm listening. I'm listening. Show me the way.
As we celebrate the life of Mary, who answered God's call and committed her life to his service, we ask that we too be given the grace to also accept the will of God, and that all of us in this Christian community may be grateful to God for having brought us into his banquet, that we may strive to bring in all our brothers and sisters who still refuse to care. We pray to the Lord.
Speak, Lord, I'm listening. I'm listening. Show me the way. Show me the way.
We pray for each one of us that the thought of God's mercy towards us may move us to show mercy to everyone at all times. And we pray for all men that they may accept the salvation which Christ so generously offers. We pray to the Lord.
Speak, Lord, I'm listening. I'm listening. Show me the way. Show me the way.
For the intentions of this Mass and thanksgiving and special intentions of the following and their families: Victorine, Josephine, Ludovic, Juliana Pierre, Rosemary Nelson, Martina Mucci, and other remembrances of the Mass. We pray to the Lord.
Speak, Lord, I'm listening. I'm listening. Show me the way. Show me the way.
We pray for all those people throughout the world who are suffering from the coronavirus, and particularly for those in hospital. We pray also for the sick and elderly who at this time may feel particularly vulnerable, isolated, and unable to experience the joys of life. We pray to the Lord.
Speak, Lord, I'm listening. I'm listening. Show me the way. Show me the way.
Let us turn now to our prayer for an end to the corona pandemic as we pray. Jesus Christ, you traveled through towns and villages, curing every disease and illness. At your command, the sick were made well. Come to our aid now in the midst of the global spread of the coronavirus. that we may experience your healing love. Heal those who are sick with the virus. May they regain their strength and health through quality medical care. Heal us from our fear, which prevents nations from working together and neighbors from helping one another. Heal us from our pride, which can make us claim invulnerability to a disease that knows no borders. In place of anxiety, give us your peace. In your wisdom, protect our country, St. Lucia, our region, and the whole world from this pandemic. Be with the doctors, nurses, researchers, and all medical professions who seek to heal and help those affected and who put themselves at risk in the process. May they know your protection and peace. Mary, comforter of the afflicted, pray for us. Amen. And now you may add your own personal intentions in the silence of your heart.
And I have a few other intentions here. And these are first for healing, for Charles Thomas, also known as Charlie. We pray for healing for him. He has been in hospital in recent times. And for Millicent Lionel, who leaves tomorrow for Barbados for healthcare and surgery. We pray for her comfort, care, and that her healthcare will be successful for her, and that the family will find the means to be able to manage all her needs. We pray for healing. For these two, this brother and sister of ours, and all other brothers and sisters who are sick in our communities, and in our families, and in our nation. Heal them. In your name, Jesus, we claim a healing for them. Amen. And we also have some birthdays, more birthdays, for Virginia Thomas, whose birthday is today, and Alice Theophil from Living Water Community, whose birthday is today, and Rhonda Mengo, who is one of the co-founders of the Living Water Community, whose birthday is also today. And let me say, I heard it mentioned, but Victorine, Ludovic, Josephine is celebrating 94 years today. Let's give her a round of applause. And there's Victorine down there, Josephine. If you see her, you think she's just about 25 years of age. She's done so well. Thank you, Josephine. God bless you. Amen. And happy birthday to all folks. Amen. Amen. Please sit.
At this time, brothers and sisters, we're going to have our collection. We remind you, the baskets will be placed in the center aisle, one at the front, one in the middle. You come up the center aisle and go off on the side aisles to go down. Do not go up and down the center aisle. For example, loka vini pour mettre collection, pour mettre la chetou, ou kay vini à mi-temps, mettez en sepania, yon devant, yon à mi-temps, et qu'après ça, ou kay passe à sous côté pour ça vier côté ou ka assise. OK? So nous avons changer ou kay ek pas vini coller yon à sous l'autre. Okay, do not stick one to the other. Please keep the social distancing as marked out in the church. During that time, we will sing, "What Can We Offer You?" Number 433 in the moments of celebration.
with Jesus our brother, Jesus your son. We join with him and glory to you, O God. We join with him and glory to you, O God. What can we offer you, Lord our God? How can we thank you for all that you've done? We can only say, Lord God, we thank you so. We can only try to live grateful lives, oh Lord, and we offer this with Jesus our brother, Jesus your son. We join with him and thanks to you, O God. We join with him and thanks to you, O God. What can we offer you, Lord our God? How do we prove we are truly sorry, Lord? We can say it's often, Lord, sorry that we are. We can try to prove it, Lord, by the way we live, and we offer this with Jesus our brother, Jesus your son. We join with him and forgive us sins, O God. We join with him and forgive us sins, O God. What can we offer you, Lord our God? Till we present you with another call for help. We just have to say, Lord God, we need you so. We just have to beg you, Lord, take us by the hand, and we offer this with Jesus our brother, Jesus your son. We join with him, Lord, we need you so. We join with him, Lord, we need you so. What can we offer you, Lord our God? How can we worship you as you deserve? We can only offer what our lips to proclaim. We can only offer you humble acts of praise, but we offer this with Jesus our brother, Jesus your son. We join with him, glory to you, O God. We join with him, glory to you, O God. What can we offer you, Lord our God? How can we thank you for all that you've done? We can only say, Lord God, we thank you so. We can only try to live faithful lives, oh Lord, as we offer this with Jesus our brother, Jesus your son. We join with him, and thanks to you, O God. We join with him, and thanks to you, O
May the Lord accept the sacrifice at your hands, for the praise and glory of his name, for our good and the good of all his holy church.
Receive our oblation, O Lord, by which is brought about a glorious exchange, that by offering what you have given, we may merit to receive your very self, through Christ our Lord. The Lord be with you.
and with your spirit.
Lift up your hearts.
Lift them up to the Lord.
Let us give thanks to the Lord our God.
It is right and just.
It is truly right and just, our duty and our salvation, always and everywhere to give you thanks, Lord, Holy Father, Almighty and eternal God, through Christ our Lord. For through his paschal mystery, he accomplished the marvelous deed by which he has freed us from the yoke of sin and death, summoning us to the glory of now being called a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for your own possession, to proclaim everywhere your mighty works. For you have called us all out of darkness into your own wonderful light. And so with angels and archangels, with thrones and dominions, and with all the hosts and powers of heaven, we sing the hymn of your glory, as without end we acclaim.
Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. Hosanna in the highest. Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. Holy, holy, holy Lord, Lord God of hosts. Heaven and earth are full of your glory. Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. 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 Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, in the name of the Lord. Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. 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 Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest. Hosanna, Hosanna, Hosanna in the highest.
You are indeed holy, O Lord, the fount of all holiness. Make holy, therefore, these gifts, we pray, by sending down your Spirit upon them like the dewfall, so that they may become for us the body and blood of our Lord Jesus Christ. At the time he was betrayed and entered willingly into his passion, he took bread and giving thanks, broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take this, all of you, and eat of it, for this is my body, which will be given up for you." In a similar way, when supper was ended, he took the chalice, and once more giving thanks, he gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take this, all of you, and drink from it, for this is the chalice of my blood, the blood of the new and eternal covenant, which will be poured out for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. Do this in memory of me. The mystery of faith. Therefore, as we celebrate the memorial of his death and resurrection, we offer you, Lord, the bread of life and the chalice of salvation, giving thanks that you have held us worthy to be in your presence and minister to you. Humbly we pray that partaking of the body and blood of Christ, we may be gathered into one by the Holy Spirit.
Remember, Lord, your church spread throughout the world, and bring her to the fullness of charity, together with Francis, our Pope, Provost, our Bishop, and all the clergy. Remember also our brothers and sisters who have fallen asleep in the hope of the resurrection, and all who have died in your mercy. Welcome them into the light of your face. Have mercy on us all, we pray. Thou, with the Blessed Virgin Mary, Mother of God, we blessed Joseph, our spouse, and we have blessed our apostles and all the saints, Saint Dominic, who have pleased you throughout the ages. We may merit to be co-heirs to eternal life, and may praise and glorify you through your Son, Jesus Christ.
Through him and with him and in him, O God, Almighty Father, in the unity of the Holy Spirit, all glory and honor is yours forever and ever. At the Saviour's command and formed by divine teaching, we dare to say, Jesus Christ, who said to your apostles, "Peace I leave you, my peace I give you. Look not on our sins, but on the faith of your church, and graciously grant her peace and unity in accordance with your will, who live and reign forever and ever."
Amen.
The peace of the Lord be with you always.
And with your spirit.
Let us offer each other the sign of peace.
Peace be with you. Peace be with you. Peace be with you. Behold the Lamb of God. Behold him who takes away the sins of the world. Blessed are those called to the supper of the Lamb.
I'm not worthy, but you should enter under my roof. Grant, say a word, and my soul shall be healed.
May the body of Christ bring me to life everlasting.
For communion, we sing, "Here I Am, Lord." 129 found in the moments of celebration.
No. The blood of Christ, bring me to life everlasting.
My hand will sing. I will make the stars of night. I will make the darkness bright. Will bear my light to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. It is I, Lord. I am Lord. You calling in the snow and rain. I am on my people's way. I am always for love of them. They turn away. I will break their hearts of stone. Give them hearts for love alone. I will speak my words to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. This is I, Lord. This is I, Lord. You calling in the night.
My sisters and brothers, when I composed this song, I set out to compose a jingle because that is what I heard the committee saying. We need a jingle to promote the assembly. And I didn't say that I could do it, but I kept listening. And one day the Holy Spirit just woke me up and gave me words. And I started singing and writing. And this is what came. And when I was finished, I realized that not only did we have a jingle, but we had a song that could merit being the assembly song. So that is how we now have an assembly song and a jingle for you today. And this is the launch. So now at the time of the meditation in our Mass, we are going to launch our assembly song. And those of you who have copies in the pews, we invite you to sing. If you don't have a copy, the chorus is very simple. We are called, yes, we are called. And at the end, we repeat the yes, we are called a few times. And just follow the song. And those of you at home, if you want to follow us, we are called, yes, we are called. Just get that and sing with us. And let us be happy and joyful in the Lord, because it is all God's work. I want to thank Trevon and the choir for learning the song, for arranging it, and told me that they were going to put a reggae beat to it now. This is more than I can rise to, but say if they put me up there, why not? I'm ready for this in the Spirit. So let us sing the song as the Spirit has given it to us. And the call is to be united as church.
We are called to be a church united. We are called to walk in truth and mercy. We are called, yes, we are called. We are called, yes, we are called. We are called to mission by the Spirit. We are called to put the word in action. We are called, yes, we are called. We are called, yes, we are called. We are called to live our stewardship fairly. We are called to serve the poor and needy. We are called, yes, we are called. We are called, yes, we are called. We are called salt and light and living. We are called salt and light and living. We are called, yes, we are called. We are called, yes, we are called.
Okay, hold it there. Let us hear the church sing it. Just sing it. We are called to be a church united. Church, we are called to walk in truth and mercy. We are called, yes, we are called. Choir don't sing. Let's hear the church community. We are called, We are called. Yes, we are called. Again on your own. We are called. Bravo.
We are
Wonderful. Now,
called.
continue.
Yes, we are called.
Bravo.
We are called to Vision 2020. We are called to be a church united. We are called to love one another. We are called. We are called. Yes, we are called. We are called. We are called. Yes, we are called. Yes, we are called. Yes, we are called. Yes, we
Amen. We have our assembly song, and it's launched for the church. And now all the parishes will receive copies of it from Trevor electronically, so that all our choirs could sing it and all our communities could sing it, and we can praise God and prepare for Assembly 2020. Let us stand and pray. Made partakers of Christ through these sacraments, we humbly implore your mercy, O Lord, that conformed to this image on earth, we may merit also to be his co-heirs in heaven, through Christ our Lord. Let's sit for the announcements.
We welcome one and all to our parish, the Good Shepherd. Please listen carefully to the notices. Our Mass last night at 6 p.m. was a vigil Mass for Mrs. Martina Amucci for divine healing and restoration. Today, Sunday the 16th is the 20th Sunday in Ordinary Time Cycle A. This morning at 7 a.m. we had a Mass offered for the intention of all parishioners and for Rosemary Nelson on her birthday for God's continuous blessings and good health. Our 10 a.m. Mass is offered for the intentions of all parishioners and the 94th birthday intention of Victorine Josephine Idovic, also for Juliana Pierre for protection and guidance of the Holy Spirit. Let's give Fifine a big hand on her 94th birthday. Still looking 16 years old. Morning Masses at Babonneau from 5:30 a.m. with adoration of the Blessed Sacrament and Holy Mass at 6 a.m. On Thursday, the 20th, at 2:30 p.m., the funeral of Monica Austin Wilson of Cabish. On Saturday coming, the 22nd, we have our 6 p.m. Mass. It's a vigil Mass. And Sunday coming, the 23rd, the 21st Sunday in Ordinary Time, Cycle A, we have a 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. Holy Mass offered for the intention of all parishioners. Archdiocesan Assembly. We welcome our Archbishop, Most Reverend Robert Rivas, OP, to our parish on this special Sunday, where we have launched the theme song for our Archdiocesan Assembly 2020, and it will take place from the 12th to the 15th of November 2020. It is to conclude the Synod of Vision 2020 and to map out the way forward for the Church in St. Lucia. May the Holy Spirit continue to enlighten and guide our Archbishop and our entire Archdiocese. Amen. Makado fwe ekse, entre le 12 et le 15 novembre, à partir du 12 novembre pour le 15 novembre, Nous avons fait ça, nous avons crié Synode 2020, Vision 2020. Archbishop la Hodia, nous chanson nous avons servi. C'est ici à première place côté yo chanter chanson ça là. Et qu'après ça, chanson ça là qui parti en toutes ces différentes paroisses là pour yo ça apprendre. Nous en août, yo avons septembre, octobre et qu'en novembre, all pays nous avons chanter ça ensemble. Alors préparez comme ici nous avons chanter presque tous les dimanches pour nous ça bien apprendre. Our special thanks and prayers to Mr. and Mrs. Sugar and Francis Severin for donating a security camera to the parish. We are most grateful, and may the good Lord continue to bless and keep them. Let's give them a hand for this great gift. Disaster collection. Next Sunday, we shall take up our annual disaster collection. Parishioners, please prepare to give generously. Dimanche prochain, nous allons faire une grosse collection pour désastre. Nous savons, nous en saison hurricane, nous allons faire une collection pour nous savoir ni l'argent, pour si rien arrive pays à par ouest nous, même l'autre pays, pour nous aider les gens. Nous savons ça c'est en saison côté nous a de gros hurricane, nous attendons tout ça qui a fait. So nous allons préparer pour dimanche prochain pour ça bail timide pli à dans collection ça là, collection spéciale ça là nous allons pour désastre. All members of the Cusio movement are invited to join in our first virtual local altria, and that will be via Zoom today, Sunday the 16th of August at 4 p.m. Please take note, Cusio members. COVID-19 period. In order to accommodate more parishioners to attend Mass during this limited number of persons allowed, we shall continue to have 3 Masses on weekends. Saturday Vigil Mass at 6 p.m. and on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. Please encourage your families and neighbors to choose any one of those Masses to attend. Our collection for last weekend at Babonneau, $1,124.20. We thank you for your generosity. Collection pour semaine pour dimanche passé, c'était $1,124 avec 20 sous. Donc, oui, merci pour générosité et nous demandons pour bailler plus sous paix. Anyone celebrating birthdays or anniversaries, we ask you to now come up for a special blessing. So, I celebrate birthday. Oh oui, ça vrai. Deacon Popo has to say a few words. There with us. Let's welcome Deacon Popo, who will say a few words to us. Poco, don't come yet.
Good morning, my brothers and sisters. It's always a pleasure to be on the Good Shepherd Parish. I'm so happy to be here. I came with my wife and my son to worship with you on this as we launch the theme and the song for the assembly. I serve in a beautiful parish. I would say it's the most beautiful parish in St. Lucia, St. Peter's, Dennery. Do you agree with me? It's the only parish, I believe, in the Archdiocese. When we see our Mass, we have the sea right in front of us. Isn't that beautiful? So all the parishes are beautiful, but I really believe that our parish named after St. Peter is one of the most beautiful churches on the island. Amen? Amen? Okay. Right, we have some of our parishioners from Dennery here. So we welcome them. I will. So shall we say hello to Dennery, St. Peter's Parish? Thank you, thank you. Now, you know, His Grace gave me 5 minutes and I will definitely say what I have to say to give you just a little more on the assembly. But you see the kind of passion that our Archbishop has, huh? The kind of passion and drive and exercising his gifts of music, poetry, and writing, the use of metaphors in scripture to give that drive and energy to the assembly. As you heard from Brother John, it will be in November from the 12th to the 15th. So nous kay venir ensemble, nous kay assembler ensemble comme l'église, et puis nous kay discuter, nous kay faire un rapport sur ça nous a fait. So I just want to show you this pastoral letter that was written by the Archbishop, some of his thoughts on the year of the word, and also as well in terms of planning for the assembly. Now, church, assembly is nothing new to us as Catholic Christians. From the beginning of church, what did we see? When we read Acts of the Apostles, we saw the early Christians, those who became Christians, those who were Jews, becoming Christians, coming together and discussing the issues of church, how to pray, how to worship. So assemblies, they're not new to our church. We have been doing that for almost 2,000 years. Amen? So the Archbishop has called for the assembly. Why? 10 years ago, I know that some of you were involved in the synod when His Grace came to St. Lucia. And we had a synod, a coming together. And in that synod, you remember, those of you who were there when we gathered for the final celebration in Vifort, and we had people, Catholic Christians from all over the Archdiocese. And I believe you also had non-Catholics who came because they saw what we were doing. And in that synod, where at that time we were able to talk together in union, in unity as Catholic Christians. And what happened? The assembly, the church, clergy, religious, the laity, we said to the church, we told His Grace that we would like to see for the next 10 years 5 areas, what we call the 5 priority areas. Vocations, the call for vocations. The youth. We have heard over and over in the Caribbean society in St. Lucia how the young people comprise the majority of our population, and by so doing, the majority of our church all over the Caribbean. We just have to look around. We have the adults, we have the elderly. So youth was another priority area. Another priority area is family life. Without the family, the church cannot survive. We cannot have vocations. Without good families in our society cannot survive. So family became another priority area. Evangelization. Evangelization. We are called to go out and make disciples, as we hear in the Gospels, preaching the good news to one another. The good news of salvation. That's our call as baptized Catholic Christians. We are all baptized. We can only be baptized once. And that's our call. As we heard in the song composed by His Grace, we are called because we have seen the light. We are a new people, a new creation. And so, my brothers and sisters, it has been 10 years of a journey. We have made that pilgrimage. And now is the time, His Grace says, for us to reflect, what we have done by God's grace. So we will have for the first time what we call a virtual assembly because of the impact of COVID. We cannot come face to face. But God is so good in His creation that He gave us the gift of technology. And that is why His Grace has said, let us have a virtual assembly. Amen? So what we're going to do, we're going to have delegates from all over the Archdiocese. We will meet at least once in the vicariate. The vicariate that we have four of them. And on day one, we will meet and we will come together to socialize and to get to know each other. Father Celestin has already identified the delegates in the parish. And then the other days, we will have it by Zoom, just like we have our online masses. In fact, the thing is that I suspect that because we are having online masses, that the homilies of His Grace of the parishes are in fact reaching out to more people, because there are people who are at home and maybe feel more comfortable or scared with respect to the COVID. So that's going to be the modality. That's how we're going to do it with respect to the holding of the virtual assembly in November from the 12th to the 15th. So we ask you to pray. We ask you to pray. And finally, we cannot just do things vitae ad hocish. We have to plan. It has been 10 years, so there are lots for us to think of. And so His Grace has put together a couple of committed people who will come to help the church to plan forward for November. And we have what we call a review committee, comprised of clergy, laity, and religious. And that review committee is headed by the Vicar General, Monsignor Michel Francis, and we have other members of clergy. We have Father Albert Smith, we have Deacon John Douglas, Deacon Harvey, and other clergy members. We also have lay persons as well. For example, we have Mrs. Alison Niles from the parish of Dennery, who is leading the events committee and who also sits on the working committee. Alison, could you please come up? We also have our brother Ronald Norville, who is playing a key role in terms of helping us with the planning process. So let us have Brother Ronald Norville, who at this point in time, in terms of the use of technology, has been helping us tremendously. So is there anybody else from the planning committee? Deacon John Douglas. Shall you please go forward to His Grace? So we have other members throughout spread. We have from Labrie, we have Lijah Chico. We also have persons like Marilyn Hyacinth, who's good in the Creole to help us. Alan Regis, Deacon Pius, and many other members with the skills coming together. We have met and we meet face to face the hospitality of His Grace at His residence, where we meet regularly for us to plan the way forward, the logistics, the working committees. And finally, my brothers and sisters, with the help of the committee, we have put together what we call a questionnaire, an online questionnaire, which has been sent to all the parish priests, deacons, and the delegates, and every baptized Catholic Christian. In this questionnaire, we want to know how you feel about your church, especially in the context of COVID. We want to know how Catholic Christians really feel about the Eucharist. How are they understanding the Eucharist, physically or spiritually, while at home? We want to know what are the skills. In all our parishes, we have persons who are carpenters, masons, doctors, lawyers. How can we serve the church better? We have journalists, we have people in media, IT. How can those persons serve the church? How are they called as baptized Catholics to give back to God the gifts that God has given to them? And then we also have a question on what do you think are the major issues in our church as we move ahead for the next 5 years? How can we plan? So we want to hear the voice of us as Catholic Christians so that we can better plan. We can better plan. You remember, those of you who are a little older, the Second Vatican Council, where the whole church came together planning. And it's over 50 years. So every diocese, under the leadership of its bishop, does the same. And so, my brothers and sisters, let us rally around His grace. Let us promote Assembly 2020. Let's say together, Assembly 2020.
Assembly 2020.
Assembly 2020.
Assembly 2020.
I'm not getting the passion. Assembly 2020.
Assembly 2020.
Yes, my brothers and sisters, it's our church. We are called. Let us come together, pray together, and give thanks and praise. Amen?
Yes, we are called. Yes, we are called. Yes, we are called. Come, deacon, come. I just want to thank Deacon David Popo and Deacon John Douglas and Mrs. Alison Niles and Mr. Ronald Noville and all the members of the planning committee in the three sections in which we are divided, who have given their time, their talent, and put all these at the service of their church at this time. These are committed people, and they are the ones who are going to put dynamism into the assembly as we go forward. I know if you were counting, Deacon David said there were 5 priorities from the synod, and he gave you 4. The one he left out was stewardship. So I just want to give you the 5th one, that you won't forget it, stewardship. And we have exciting things, priorities for the assembly, and you will get to know them as we go forward. Thanks again. And now, Trevor is going to give us the jingle. So we have to listen to what the jingle says. It is just about a minute and a fraction of time. Thank you. Let's show appreciation for the committee members.
We are called to be a church united. We are called to be a church united. We are called. Yes, we are called.
Now is the time for church.
A time for hope.
Listen to the Spirit and the Word. We are called to be united. We are called to build up the body of Christ, the church, together.
Assembly 2020 is here.
A springtime for the church in St. Lucia.
Theme: there is one body,
One spirit.
one hope,
One faith.
one baptism.
Ephesians chapter 4, verses 3 to 6.
Come on, come on. We are the church, stakeholders. Hear the call for church.
It's counting on you.
We are called. We are called. Yes, we are called. Yes, we are called. Yes, we are called. Yes, we are called.
Let's give the youth a round of applause. They worked well, and this obviously is a work in progress, because we have to make sure that the words will come across as clearly as we can hear them. So I don't know whether it's a sound system, but if this is going to go on radio and television and as a promotion for the assembly, we have to have the best sound in it. So thanks again, Babonneau Youth Choir, Trevon, and Father Celestine, and community. Thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, just before the persons for birthdays and anniversaries come up, I think we had a slight mistake in the notices. Our masses go back to 7 and 9 o'clock on a Sunday. Dimanche prochain, après ça, la messe est 7h du bon matin ek neve di bon matin. C'est seulement hodi à nous tenir la messe à 10h, puis se lâcher avec la là. It was only this Sunday we had a 10 o'clock mass with our Archbishop for the luncheon. We go back to 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock Sunday masses. Those celebrating birthdays and anniversaries, please come up for your special blessing.
We are saying thank you, Jesus.
Thank you,
My Lord, we are saying thank you, Jesus. Thank you, my Lord. I am saying thank you, Jesus. Thank you, my Lord. We are saying thank you, Jesus. Jesus, thank you, my Lord. Brothers and sisters, shall I invite you to stand wherever you are, stretch your hands, and pray for our brother, pray for our sisters who rejoice and celebrate today as they come forward to the altar of God in thanksgiving and appreciation for the gift of their life, for the opportunity of having another year added to their lives, that the Lord may be gracious and continue to bless them, that the Lord may continue to fill them with the faith of the Canaanite woman that will endure every trial, that will help them to persevere, looking unto the Lord for the source of every good things. Loving Father, bless your children as they thank you for their birthdays. We thank you for their lives. We thank you for their families. We thank you for their gift to us. Let your goodness continue to abide with them. Grant them many, many happy, healthy years to be of service to you and to one another. Grant this through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
And may Almighty God bless you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. May the good Lord bless you. And His good Lord too. May your wishes come true. Happy birthday to you.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
Our help is in the name of the Lord. May the name of the Lord be blessed. And may the blessing of Almighty God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit come upon you and remain with you forever.
Go and announce the gospel of the Lord.
Thanks
be to God.
Holy Michael, the Archangel, defend us in this day of battle. Be our safeguard against the wickedness and the snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust down into hell Satan and all the wicked spirits
who wander through this world seeking the ruin of souls. Amen.
Brothers and sisters, let us thank our Archbishop for celebrating with us today and for launching his song here with us today. Let's put our hands together for the Archbishop.
Our recessional hymn is the sermon found in the Momentous Celebration, number 153.
Will you come and follow me? You'll find that's where your name. Will you go where you don't fall and never be the same? Will you let my love be shown? Will you let my name be known? Will you let my love be grown in you and you in me? Will you leave yourself behind if I but call your name? Will you care for rule and guide and never be the same? Will you raise the lost son? Should your life have trapped or sad? Will you let me answer prayer in you and you in me? Will you let the blinded see if I but call your name? Will you set the prisoners free and never be the same? Will you kiss the rock of faith and dissolve your sins and sin? And admit to what I need in you and you in me. Will you love the you hide if I but call your name? Will you cry the fear inside and never be the same? Will you use the thing you found to reshape the world around? Will the sight and touch and sound in you and you in me? Lord, your servants approach you when you but call my name. Let me turn and follow you and never be the same. To your company I go, where your love and goods and show. For some